We are back.
Wow.
Hello. My name's Ilya.
My name is Tyler.
And this is part 4.
Final part.
Final. Maybe. Is there going to be part 5?
No, this is the final part.
There could be part 5. There's still a few 2-player games out there in the world. Well, this is part 4, and we're down to our last little bit of 2-player games in our strictly 2-player month. And without further ado, we're going to jump in. But there's a giveaway happening on this video and part 3. So keep an eye out for that.
Exactly.
So the one I want to talk about is the Seals of Cthulhu.
Seals of Cthulhu.
So this one's published by Thing 12 Games. And basically you're either the investigator or the cultist. You have a hand of 6 cards.
Yep. You'll
play it and then you'll bid on the cards.
Face down.
Yeah, face down. So you won't know. Is this something good? Is this something bad? But basically after that, whoever wins the bid gets the card. And you and your opponent have the same set of cards. Mm-hmm. So if by some chance you get both the halves of the artifact, you can use the artifact's power.
Yes.
And then that can potentially get you more cards. It can shift and create some abilities and eventually lead you to maybe doing better in the game as if you didn't get the halves.
Yes, it will, because you have to collect points.
Mm-hmm. Because to
cards.
Win, exactly, to win you have to get the most control by the end of the 5 rounds, which is playing smart and bidding smart in order to make that happen. Mm-hmm. This is a very interesting game. I really appreciated the way that the card pairing works. I think it's really cool how we both have different halves, and if we are able to win the halves, because the bidding kind of goes back and forth, because you can potentially lose enough of your own control values that it just comes back. Or your influence value, that you just are not able to bid. So you do have to give your opponent some, take some. But when you do that, the timing of it is really interesting. I think playing it a few times, it definitely clues in. The other thing I'll say too is the production in this game is super cool. There's some surprises in the box. There are some... Just the way everything is put together is just...
Feels right.
Feels right. Definitely culty. What do you think?
I had a hard time grasping the game.
Mm-hmm.
There's a concept of flipping cards over and then flipping them face down and flipping them face up. Kind of like in
Air,
Land, and Sea, where you have to flip the cards over, or you can place a card face down and they're worth different values. But when you flip them over, you can reactivate their abilities. Mm-hmm. I had a hard time grasping that the first few times we played it, and then it just became a little bit more obvious what you were doing, but it did feel like a relatively, I didn't piece together those puzzles, and it made it difficult for me to play the game. Yeah. I
wish it was longer, because it feels like for such a neat mechanic, it feels like it's really rare for you to actually get some of the combos and get it all going. At least that's how I felt. So I feel
don't know if making it longer would...
Or just give more opportunities, maybe, to create some of those moments. Because I think sometimes... some games it did feel like you're just playing for the higher control values and then you're not really pairing the artifacts and then just hoping to get the most control. So I think there was a slight element that I think I want to explore a little bit further, I guess.
Yeah, there was just some cards that I think I needed to be able to play, and sometimes I couldn't get to play, and it was a little bit frustrating, but I think it's a neat concept, has things going for it. I just, it's almost there.
Almost there. The Seals of
Cthulhu. Okay.
All right.
Next up, we're going to talk about Chai Tea for 2.
Ooh. Metal Tin.
Jingle, jingle, jingle. So this one here is published by Steeped Games, and it's designed by them as well.
Yeah.
And it's the follow-up to Chai... To Chai.
Chai.
Yeah.
2-player version.
Yeah, and this is a strictly 2-player version. Now, what they've done with this game is it's a dice placement, dice manipulation, pick up and deliver kind of thing, I guess I would say. Yeah. But what you're doing is you are working along this panel of actions that you're able to take. And it starts from basically gardening or planting and harvesting tea leaves to moving them into sell and ship them off to ships. So what you end up doing is on your own board, you'll collect these leaves and move them up strategically on your board by doing these different actions, and then eventually what you'll do is you'll grab a ship that has an order, and you have to fulfill that order with these leaves that you've managed to move up. And it's a lot of fun because what you get to do is you get to play these cards that are like on the sides, the bottoms, or the two sides and the bottom of the of your own player mat, and they'll add bonuses for you when you place things.
As well. That you have to kind of get for some additional points too.
So there's a bit of like set collection that goes along with that, but I think that it runs really smoothly for what's going on, and I have really enjoyed playing this one.
Yeah, it's very different than Chai.
Oh, very.
Like I found Chai to be a very like light, quick kind of set collection piece, but here like the mechanics, it's quite involved, it's quite tricky, but it's also very fun. It's definitely one of my favorite two-player games. Simply like the art is done from Andrew Balsley and some other folks as well. It's gorgeous. The production's really nice. And I'm really excited for everyone to get to experience this one because it's quite wonderful.
Yeah, so this one is it's in the fulfillment process. And we were fortunate to play the prototype of it,
which is what this is
exactly. And yeah, it's been really fun. And then like the cool thing is like you play through these dice, and it seems like there's a lot of spaces to be able to use, but you have to use them strategically, and obviously
Tyler could steal it.
Exactly, and you have to roll the right numbers. So that's one of those. It's part of being a dice game, and
I love dice.
Yeah, I feel really good when I get to fulfill the orders and make combo plays just from moving my tea leaves up.
And game length also arranges based on the ship, so you can have a shorter game or a longer, which is really nice. But that is
Chai Tea for Two, which I should mention we're doing a giveaway on.
I should find the video of where we're doing that giveaway. Maybe we won't make it that easy for you.
Or maybe we will.
What video is it?
It might be down below.
More work in the description, Tyler?
It'll be down below. If you want to get your chance to win this game, check that video out. And yeah, you can enter yourself to win another
Chai Tea for Two. Wonderful.
Hooray.
So the one I want to talk about next is Twilight Struggle.
That looks like a struggle.
Dun 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 dun. So the game design is by Ananda Gupta and Jason Matthews, and it's published by GMT Games. So this game has been on the Board Game Geek's #1 spot for quite a long time.
Number one? On the 2-player?
No.
Just #1?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
I didn't know it was #1.
That was our whole post.
What?
Yeah, for like many years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not #1 right now.
No.
Okay.
Gloomhaven.
Okay, no. See, this is what I thought. I was like, I thought you meant it's right now. And I was like, when did this happen?
No, in the past.
Okay.
But it's still prominent in the top 100 list. I think it's a top 15 right now, and rightfully so. So what it depicts is the struggle between the Soviet Union and the United States during the Cold War time. And the game is played in 10 different rounds, and it's played in card based. So you're controlling territories across the world and basically trying to get influence and score the most points.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to keep in mind throughout this whole game. It's a very involved game, but it's surprisingly quite streamlined. You're looking at controlling various territories, making sure you have enough influence when the scoring happens. You're looking at the space race and taking advantage of making sure you're moving up on the space race and committing to it. You also have to have a certain amount of military operations, but making sure you don't create nuclear war, because that would not be beneficial to anybody.
Streamlined, he says.
Streamlined. So there's a lot of moving parts, but I was surprised at how smooth it felt. Every turn, everything made sense. The historical aspect from the cards was really interesting. There's various decks that you go throughout the game, so like the early war stage to the late war stage, that produce different events and let you experience the historical aspect of it a little bit and trying to recreate some of the big events that have happened in the world. Overall, I think I've personally had a great experience with this game. It is a long game, but it felt really good, and Tyler managed to snag a victory on me by putting me in the right place at the right time, which I'm still a little bit salty about, but the culmination of everything that goes up to this game is just very exciting. So I would definitely recommend it if you're into the historical aspect, more of the war game aspect, or if you're even curious around war games, because I think this one was a really a great introduction to it for us because we haven't played too many.
Intro into war games. I suppose that's a good way to put it. I don't know that many like historical war games though. So this one's an interesting from my perspective, it's an interesting take on it. I like the significance it has in through the cards, through even like the boards, and like the stages you go through are actually stages of presidencies, and I think that's pretty fun. Just these like small nodes that they do to what was going on, I think is really neat. But it is like exactly what Ilya's kind of saying is that like it's a game where you play against each other. Like nothing you do will not affect the other person.
That's true.
So you always have to be aware of that. You always have to like plan ahead for that. You always need to know that you might get hit with something, or yeah, there's just like a lot going on. I think the biggest thing for me with this game is like learning all of the cards, because there are a lot of cards that can sway the game if played properly, and when you don't have that knowledge of what the actual cards are, then it can kind of be like, okay, well, I couldn't have saw that coming even if I wanted to, right? And that's like, I think that's how I ended up winning the game.
I did not know of the card. Yeah, and I think like this is a game that you have to play a few times to get to really know it, because once you have the card knowledge, it makes it that much more exciting.
Now I feel like I was in a pretty good spot when we were there. I just drew this card, and the way that it works, it just like, I wanted to make sure that I won this way, so I kept it, and I won by a single point.
Okay.
Intentionally.
Okay.
I did. He's a little salty about it,
The last thing I'll also say too is I really like the way the battle mechanics work in this game and how you take it over. I think it's very smooth, it's very clever, and it doesn't feel completely like luck, which I know in some like war games I've
yeah.
So yeah. But overall,
I really like it. Action-based game that you have to pay attention to what your opponent is doing.
Play your cards right. Twilight Struggle.
An Ubisoft original. Let's take a look at
Orlog.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla dice game. So, for any of those of you who are familiar with Assassin's Creed, this is a game pulled right out of the video game.
So they have a board game in it.
Yeah.
And then they've taken it and put it in real life. And it's the same.
And it's the same. I have not played the game that it's from, so I can't speak for
They say it's the same. Exactly.
But anyways, so in this game, you're basically duking it out, like I always say, with your opponent. And you're going to be rolling these dice and deciding whether or not you're going to keep certain faces of dice. And based on the faces of dice that you decide to keep, you'll be able to use them against your opponent to do an attack. And they'll be able to, in return, be able to defend themselves and attack. Sometimes you end up being able to like steal some of their tokens that they've gathered, and gaining more tokens, favor tokens for yourself. Which brings me to my next point, and that's there are god favors that you get to choose at the very beginning of the game. So each player will get 3 different ones.
Potentially
and there's a couple ways you can do it. There's like a drafting way you can do it. You can start with the beginner where each of you will just get the exact same ones. There's enough variability and a lot of different gods that you can make a bunch of different combinations of them to have a lot of fun with it. But with each of the gods, you'll be able to spend these favor tokens that you'll collect throughout the game, and use them towards these gods that have these abilities. And some of them heal you, some of them deal damage to your opponent, some of them do other things that will help you scale up even further for your next turn. There's a lot going on, and I really appreciate it because there are so many different combos that you can put together with the gods.
Yeah. So what do you think of Orlog?
Yeah, it's cool. It felt really quick, it felt really fast. Like I was saying, there's a lot of different combos that you can put together. So like they give you a sheet with all the gods on it, and you can read through all of their abilities. Me being me, I would look at them and try and figure out like what kind of crazy combo I could figure out. So I was trying to like one turn kill Ilya kind of thing.
Monster.
I almost did it. So that was a lot of fun. And then so then you can put together other different combos, and it's just really cool to get creative with it. Also, like obviously with some restrictions based on what they can do, but it is pretty fun.
I like it a lot too. The production of this game is really nice. Your health points are these nice emerald, beautiful stones, which are probably not emerald, but
actually
they look
didn't
like
make
emerald.
sense to me. But I also understand because I think it was like part thematic.
Yeah, well, it's because that's what it is in the video game. They have the stones.
I get it.
And then you have a little dice tray, and like the way that the dice click on the acrylic tray, it like makes a nice little click sound, and I like that. I also like that this name is Orlog because that's a fun thing to say. We also did a whole review video on this one, so if you're curious more about our thoughts and why you should check out or should not check out Orlog, check that out.
Yes.
Orlog.
Yeah, Orlog.
Okay, next up, let's talk about this one.
Fog of Love.
Fog of Love. So Fog of Love is brought to you by Floodgate Games now. It currently publishes it. Yeah. In Fog of Love, what you'll aim to do is basically reenact a potential love story, or maybe it's a breakup story. Hopefully not.
It could be. Well, it depends on what scenario.
Hopefully not. Breakups are never good, but sometimes they are. But not in this case. Basically, you'll build your characters and give them various traits, their occupations, and the traits and their destiny will be their essential goals for the game, and to shift the markers that go in the middle of the table. Now, the game is played in chapters, and you'll each play scenarios taking turns. And the scenarios are a lot of where some of the roleplay comes in, where something happens and either both of you or one of you responds to the scenario. And based on that outcome, the board will shift, the conditions will shift that can impact your traits and destinies, which are your potential win conditions. It is a semi-cooperative game. You eventually just want to both fulfill your destinies, whether it is to stay together or to break up. But you want to do it in a collective way, knowing what your opponent is up to as well. So I think I really enjoy this game. It's unlike any board game I've ever played.
It really is. Yeah.
It's very different because you're embodying these characters. So you have to remind yourself you're not these characters, because some of their personalities are vastly different than your own. And some of the situations they're in are just incredibly difficult. But going through that it's a whole level of, I think, a relationship, which is really interesting. And I love, too, that Floodgate is continuing to release content. So Love on Lockdown is the newest expansion.
Which is funny.
For Fog of Love. It's a little close to home, I find, being stuck at home for all of COVID. But
Love Lockdown.
Love Lockdown. What do you think of Fog of Love?
Yeah, so like Ilya was saying, is like, I do agree, it has a very interesting mechanic and like way about playing the game. The one thing I think I would say particularly about the game is it feels as if it should be role play, because you've went through this whole process of like creating the character that you are supposed to embody, and then supposed to like think through, be like, okay, well, what would this person, what would their decision be, and why would it be that way? And you kind of get to like work through those empathy steps almost. But the one thing that I'm trying to get to is that there are points where I feel like I wanted it to be more forceful with how you're supposed to actually role play it. Whereas like I think you can get away with this game with not doing any sort of role playing. And I don't know if that's the intention of the game to begin with. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be this role player where it's like very out loud and like you act it out kind of thing. But sometimes I think it's really funny, because especially with like the really goofy scenarios that you're put into, it is more fun to be oh, I'm this sassy person and I don't want that. How dare you? Right? Like that's really fun, but sometimes I wish it was like almost more.
But I think
it is probably up to the people that are playing it.
And it makes it easier because your traits and your destiny really dictate that. Because a lot of the options, like your traits and your destiny, will force you to take them. So that's kind of your character alignment. But it is up to you to really elevate that beyond just character alignment, to really embody it. So I think it is a game that you really have to be in the mood to play for. Because I think the more that you put into this game, the more that you get out of it, in my opinion. I think that's what you were trying to say.
Essentially, like, I do like going through the whole process of just playing the game for what it is, and then making sure that we reach our destinies, whatever the outcome may be. But yeah, there's moments where I'm like, this would be funny to like act up, I guess.
Also, there's covers with two male identifying individuals on the front. And Tyler did not get it when he bought me the game.
It actually wasn't available when I bought him the game.
The LGBT cover.
By that, I mean it wasn't at our local game store, so I...
Sad me.
Yeah. And now I see it every time and I get sad.
And that is...
Log of Love.
Here you go.
Alrighty. We're so close. You can see the table again. I'm going to pick to talk about Polis.
Polis.
Okay, so this one is another one of the heavy 2-player games that we've been able to play. It's published by Devere, and it's designed by Fran Diaz. And basically this game is about, correct me if I'm wrong, because I always get this wrong, Sparta versus Rome? No. Who is it? Sparta? Athens. Greek.
Tyler is not the strongest at theme.
No.
If you haven't noticed, this is the revelation.
I like to talk about mechanics.
So I guess I can kick off the theme.
No.
Okay.
I now that I know what it is,
okay.
that's all it is. All right. So Athens and Sparta, you are basically playing that war.
I thought you were gonna say duking it out.
I was gonna say duking it out, but no. So you start in one player starts in Athens, one player starts in Sparta, and then you are essentially going around the map trying to take control of all the territories, grow your resource pool, and use those resources to build your population up, and basically be better than each other.
Increase your prestige.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was getting to, is basically be better than each other by trying to have the most prestige and population. So you'll work through all of this you'll work through this whole game basically in 3 rounds, which feels like it is a short game, but what this does is you work on an action system of taking like 2 actions, and then Ilya takes 2 actions. Then I'll take 2 actions, and then Ilya will take 2 actions, and so on and so forth until each of us decides to pass. Once both of us have passed, usually when we've run out of resources or any like significant thing to do on the board, then we'll do like a cleanup phase, and then we'll move into the next round and we'll continue playing.
You have to feed our population.
Yeah.
Wheat.
So the tricky thing here is that you've got to start collecting wheat, which is a pretty rare resource among the whole game. So you have to keep that in mind while also still conquering territories, because every time you get a territory, or a city, I should say, a polis, I should say. Every time you get a polis, you'll take on more individuals that are part of your kingdom, and you'll have to provide for them. And you do that by feeding them wheat. So when you feed them wheat, they stay on the board, or they stay on their cards, and you'll be able to build up prestige and just use them so that they can provide you other things in the end. And that's kind of the gist of the game. Yeah.
There's 11 different actions you can take, which is quite a lot.
That's exactly why I didn't even want to get into that. I didn't want to mention it.
No, but I think the general, like what I'll add as well, is a lot of this game is restricting territories and restricting control of how you travel, because you have land units and water, and then as well as you have more political figures that go throughout the game. There's a lot of layers in this game. It is a fairly complex game, but it's all interconnected. You need to make sure that your trade routes are not blocked because you need the wheat, for example.
If you get blocked in a trade route, good luck.
Yeah. But then you're also battling, trying to get control, fulfilling projects, trying to amass resources so you have enough to convert. So there's a lot of different layers, but it feels very fun. And after getting into this game, I'm like, I want to play more. The battle system in this game is so much fun. Because basically you are in the same territory, you reach a certain amount of units, which you can't reach in the first round, which is very thematic, because in the first round it was more of the building up, and in the historical space as well. But in the later rounds, if you have too many units in one space, you battle. And the way you battle is you have a deck of cards, and you basically play them in alternating order, defending and attacking.
And you would match them.
You match the cards, and you get more prestige, and it's just... all of this game wrapped up is super exciting. The board is indented, and I do believe this is a 2nd edition or a reprint of the original. And it's just elevated in so many different ways that I want to keep playing it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this game. I really appreciate it. The crazy thing to add to like the whole getting into wars thing, which is actually really important in the game, is prestige you get from doing these battles. There's other ways to get them, but most commonly, prestige is also something you have to strategically use your actions.
Lot of your actions.
Not all of them use prestige, but a lot of them do. So when you do enter yourself into a battle. It means that you've guaranteed yourself more opportunity to use use actions in that round, because you don't want the round to end too soon. Because if it does, then you might be short some stuff or whatever that might be, and that's never going to be a good feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall, last thoughts?
Yeah, I really like this game. I'm excited to play this one again. I already have ideas brewing in my head about what I could do. I particularly like the politician that they have. I can't remember what his name is.
Yeah.
But a phone drop.
Oops.
But the politician dude person that you move around.
Let's say diplomat. Yeah. That sounds right.
When you move him around, it's not. When you move him around, it feels really good, because then you can like kind of convert one of the cities, or like turn the city over to your side, and it's really cool.
Only if you have enough silver, though, which is another restricted resource. I think the last thing I'll say for this is the definition of this game is restrictive resource management. If you love really tight resource management and strategic resource management, you'll really appreciate Polis.
Yep. Yeah.
Polis! Up next, we're going to talk about Illumination. And this is from Alf Siegert and Eagle Griffin Games.
Yes.
So in this game, you are monks trying to become the scriptorium writer and trying to have the best scripts out there. So one of you is reverent and one of you is irreverent. And then basically what you're trying to do is in each of your turns, you'll get tiles in your little 3x3 grid. And based on the tiles that you choose, you'll place them in the corresponding book from your direction. Now, if you place tiles to the similar color, you're able to obtain tokens. If you place tiles in a similar colored scroll, you're able to get coins, and you're using those tokens and coins to essentially get points for the end of the game. What's really cool too is throughout the game, there's factions of things that just don't like each other. For example, dragons and knights, or
squirrels and dogs.
Yeah, angels or demons. So you're trying to create battles, because Tyler, for example, if he's irreverent, he'll have demons and I'll have angels, and I'm going to try to surround his and have more in order to defeat them to get more points for the end of the game. So there's a lot of different, the game is played.
There's a lot of layers to this game.
There definitely is. And the game is played until the 3 books are filled with all those tiles. There's a lot of layers to this game, like we said before. There's a lot of mechanics at play, but all of them flow quite smoothly together. There's ways of set collection, there's set of resource management, there's ways to get cards and card action. But at the end of it all, you're just trying to play your opponent and make sure you score more points. So maybe forcing them to move one of the pieces, and all of a sudden putting your piece in and fulfilling the battle and destroying those darn squirrels. Or being out-tricked by your opponent with some sad ways. There's a lot of consolation prizes too. Like, for example, if you're able to do some of the higher set collection that gets points, you'll get a card in advance. So the design is just extremely tight in this game. When I was reading the rulebook, I was so giddy about this game. So like, this is going to be so exciting.
I mean, look at it.
And
how could you be?
I feel like I don't know if I love the cover of this game.
No,
this is not a game.
All right,
okay, go for it.
Yes, I know exactly what he's gonna say. This is not a game I would be like, okay, well, look at this. This has to be an amazing game. Like, yeah. I'm sure that it is. Blah blah blah. Grab it off the shelf and grab it and play it. I look at this game and I'm like, I want to play this game because I have no idea what I'm gonna get into. And yeah, I don't know. I saw it and I was like, cool. Yes. I have no idea what this is, but I'm interested.
I felt a little bit differently. I think the cover was just like, I'm like, ugh. But once reading the rulebook and playing it, I really fell in love with it. And now playing it, I'm like, all the art and all the artistic choices make sense for it. But initially, like, I don't think I would have ever been like, let's get this to the table. But I'm really glad that we did, because Alf Siegert designed Haven as well, and we love Haven. And this is a game that I really, really appreciated, and I can't wait to play it again and again and again because of just how clever it is.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's very, very, very neat. The set collection around like the resources, and not only like the resources that you are collecting, you have to pay attention to. You have a grid of resources that you have to maintain, and at the end of your turn, if you have more resources, you have to choose which ones to get rid of. And I think that's very nice. Like, I'm not gonna say it's nice because
Must be nice.
Yeah, it's like awkward when you have too many resources. Not that we had that many troubles with it.
Because you can spend your coins.
Yeah. And yeah, there's just like a lot of ways to use your resources, but you can't like grab all 5 different resources kind of thing. You have to be very strategic. You have to be very like aware of which ones you're going for, and I really like that. The cards add a whole nother layer to the game, which I thought was really, really cool. And all of it just seemed to, flow really nicely together. And the compensation for not being able to achieve it, I think is great, because then everybody feels good about getting something, but it also like keeps that game like close. It keeps it tight, and I really appreciate that when scores are like 4 or 5 points away from each other. Like that's super cool, because you never know who's gonna win.
Yeah, I think it's a very intentional design in every way, and I think the design is just incredible.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Illumination. Okay, so next up we're going to talk about Imhotep the Duel.
Imhotep the Duel.
So this one's designed by Phil Walker Harding, and it's published by Thames and Cosmos. So in this one, you're essentially, it's a set collection game. It's this tile collection game, where on your turn you'll either place a meeple on this 3x3 grid, or unload a boat that corresponds to one of the columns or rows.
Yes.
But the catch is there has to be at least 2 people in order for it to be, or 2 meeples. 2 meeples. Meeples to be unloaded. And where your meeples are, that's the good you're going to get on the ship, because there's 3 spots of goods. Yes. So, and that's essentially the game.
That's the game.
Yeah, the goods you are able to collect, sometimes they're actions tiles, so you can play them later on, but a lot of them are going to be set collection in a variety of ways based on the sides of the boards that you're using. So you're either building up an obelisk, you're building up a pyramid, and there's a lot of variety of ways to score points based on the tiles that you collect. This probably is very up high for me on some of my favorite 2-player games.
I guess we'll find out in your top 10 list.
We'll see if it makes it in the top 10.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm guessing it will, because I think it's extremely smooth. Because you have 2 choices, but those 2 choices are so impactful, because all of a sudden, if I place a meeple here, Tyler might steal the good that I want. So how do I empty out his meeple in this location so I can put a meeple there and get it? So there's a lot of layers in the gameplay, but at the heart of it all, it's a set collection, which I love. So I really appreciate this game. I also love Phil Walker Harding. I also love a lot of the Thames and Cosmos 2-player games, so it's no surprise here.
Yeah, like you have to understand when you're doing like a 3x3 grid and you have to get those resources that like you have 2 options wherever you place them. So you're going to get one good or another good.
Potentially.
And that's the thing, is like you're potentially going to get either one of those. So then how do you play against that, or how do you play for that? Like you have to strategically decide exactly what Ilya was just saying, and I think that's what makes the game really interesting. Alongside of that, you've got these ability tokens that you can start using that swap places with the resources. There's more layers that get added, and then it really just comes down to being able to collect all of the different things. Well, not all of the different things, but certain things, so you can score yourself the most points. And the pathways are what I find really interesting on the scoring, is you collect certain numbers and then you'll score for however long you're able to make that chain. And I think that's super cool. Also something you have to be very aware of, because that's, I would say, the majority of the points come from. There are other ways to score points, but definitely I would say if you're going to play this game, focus on those numbers that do come up.
And that is Imhotep the Duel. Here you go. So up next, you're going to talk about
Quoridor. Is that how you say it? Quoridor.
Quoridor.
All right. I say this publisher's name wrong all the time as well. Gigamik. Okay.
So it's Hachette Games.
Right. So
I'm trying to be French. I'm not, so my apologies if I'm pronouncing those wrong. And I think it's designed by...
I just know I say it wrong, so...
Well, you have to try.
Yeah, I guess.
Mirko Marchesi.
Oh, it's not the right way. Or is it supposed to be like this?
Oh.
That's okay.
No wonder I read the name so seamlessly. It was sideways. So this is Quoridor.
Yes, exactly. So, and how this game works is essentially it's this board of lines and squares. There's a bunch of indents where you can like place these panels, and it's called Quoridor because it's like this play on you have to make these different corridors. But on your turn, you either move your little person or you place a corridor wall. And the idea is that you want to be the first person to make your meeple to the other side. You do this by either moving your meeple or placing a corridor. And the back and forth is actually really hilarious because you can see these like patterns start to evolve of like people trying to block you, and then you try to move one way and then it's blocked again, and it's just this like fun, quick game that I think can also be a little frustrating at times. And then that's really it. I guess like overall what I think of the game is I quite enjoy it. The one qualm that I do have with the game is that you can very much tell when it's going to end. Like at a certain point, it's really just playing out the rest of the turns because it's very obvious like who's gonna win. And the cool thing is though, even though it's obvious who's gonna win, it's usually by a few moves. And yeah, I think that's very cool. We end up following the exact same path most of the time that we've played it, which I thought was very funny. And then just like strategically placing your tile to make sure that like you don't get blocked, but rather you stop somebody from being able to block you, I think is the really important thing, because you can't completely close off the wall.
So here's my thoughts. I learned about this game. I understood what was happening. Was very excited by it. But got demolished every single game. So I'm like Tyler is particularly better at me in this game. I don't know if he's good.
I don't know if I'm good either.
But I'm just not, I cannot seem to beat him in this game, and that frustrates me. So I prefer a Quarto to this game. I appreciate what it's trying to do, and one day maybe I'll beat Tyler. But the thing that makes it really bearable is it's a really quick game. Yeah. So like even if you see who's winning right away, you'll set up and you'll play immediately. It's also nice that once you play all your pieces, like the walls that can block, you can't play anymore. You can't move them after that. And you can not only play them to block, you can play them to help your own person get farther too. So there's layers of strategy there, but overall, fun game. I get frustrated with it.
Well, and that's what I mean is like, I think with this game, it's particularly important, and maybe this isn't the strategy at all. Maybe, like I said, maybe I'm bad at this too, but my idea with placing my walls is to strategically place them so that Ilya cannot place them to block me.
I also do that,
yeah, but I still lose. He does it after me, and then I realize what he's doing.
That's Quoridor. So up next, we're going to talk about Akrotiri. So this one's designed by Senfeng Lim and Jay Cormier and is published by Z-Man Games. So Akrotiri is a dig site on the island of Thera, and you're looking at the Aegean Sea, or the Aegean Sea, I think.
Is this real spot?
Yeah.
Oh. Look at me go, learning themes.
So what you're trying to do is you're trying to explore out of the island of Thera and map out the world and excavate temples that are across the world. The way you do that is a combination of tile placement, pick up and deliver, resource management, and strategic placement of the tiles, because if they line up with your maps, you can place temples and they'll score you the many points. What I absolutely adore about this game, and this is still a little bit about how the game is played, is there is a player mat that explains basically step by step on what you're doing. So the first thing, everyone's playing a tile. Then you're placing resources in the strategic way that you have to play the tile. And now you have these 5 actions you can do. What's really cool about the game too is the more temples that you excavate, the more actions that you'll have in the game. So the gameplay really scales up. And this makes sense because as you begin to explore and move on the map, you'll have to move further. Because you can't just go, movement is like 1 on the sea and 1 on the land, and sometimes you'll have to go sea, land, trying to get to some of the outskirts island. Because each island can only have 1 temple.
Yes, yeah.
So
there's a caveat with the movement, but you end up being able to move multiple spaces kind of thing. But
depending if you don't have car cargo. So, but then at the whole time you're also trying to get cargo across and resources across the whole map to deliver them back to the base, and there's a resource economy. So the more that there's out there, the more it's gonna be worth. Because there's not a lot in the market.
That's how demand and supply works.
Yeah, demand and supply. So there's a lot of layers. It's a very clever game. I'm surprised not more people talk about this one because it's just extremely fun and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, when we first talked about doing 2-player month, that was the first time I heard about this game. 2 reasons I'm surprised by that. Exactly what Ilya said is we've played through it and I really enjoyed it. And then second off, it's done by Jay and Zen. So like both
the
two
dynamic
designers,
duo.
2 designers that we actually really love. So yeah, it was very nice to be able to get this game and play it and include it in this. And yeah, I really enjoy it. I think it's pretty great. The different objectives you can get, the strategic placements based on like the cards that you end up picking up, the scaling even of the objectives because they get harder and harder, and you obviously want to get harder cards as you progress through the game because they'll offer you more points, but they'll also be easier to complete because the map is already large enough. And then yes, it makes you be able to keep up or keep ahead of your opponent, and I really like that.
You know what made me think of this? It'd be really cool to have a huge Venn diagram of all the mechanics in 2-player games. And see like all the... Because this is one of the ones that be like in the middle. Because there's so many different mechanics. But it's so smart. But it's cool. Like in my head I'm always like, these 3 games when you play them can slowly tie up to this game. But it's a fairly complex game. But there's so much to love about it. And I would highly recommend anyone to check it out if they enjoy anything that we mentioned.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is
Akrotiri. Before I get to the last game that we're going to talk about, I want to give everybody the code word to enter the giveaway. And that is RAD.
Fun.
Now let's talk about Radlands.
Radlands.
Hint, hint, maybe, who knows?
So, we got the fancy, deluxeified, kickstarted, beautiful playmat, tiles, moi.
Yeah, I went all out on this one. I was very excited when I saw this game, and I guess just like give you a quick overview of what the game is you are...
Well, before you do the quick overview, who is it designed and who is it published by?
Okay, Radlands is published by Roxley, and it's designed by Daniel Pitchnick. And basically this post-apocalyptic game... You're... I'm gonna say it. Are you
duking
You're duking it out against your opponent to essentially take out their base.
Maybe duking it out should have been the code word.
Maybe it should have.
How many bases are you taking out?
3.
Exactly.
So you're going to be going after your opponent's bases by playing different cards, collecting resources so you can use different things.
Just water.
Well, yeah, it's just water. But you'll collect resources to do certain things, to set up your base, to defend yourself, to attack, to do all of these different things. And it's essentially what it comes down to is it's this little deck builder game that you have these... that you've already have these decks put together for you.
It's not. Is it a deck builder?
Well, you have them put together.
It's not. It's a card.
It's a card. I guess that's what. Yeah. Well, because you can play with different bases. I guess that's what the point is. So you play with these decks, and then you'll have these different bases based on your selections. Yes. But it is essentially just this go back and forth, make your moves, and try and take your opponent out before they take you out.
I really like the thematic element of this game because water is the only resource.
Yeah.
So everything you're doing with water, and it feels right, especially in this kind of era of what the game is. You need to have water to get characters on the board. You also have events. The other thing I really like is when you play events, they get played in this little countdown.
Yeah.
So if you play an event later on, it could do bigger things. So your opponent knows that this is going to happen soon. And everything is clever in my opinion because you're trying to get rid of the bases, get rid of them, but you can protect them by playing characters in front of them that can potentially do different things. And there's a lot of clever ways to play cards to trick your opponent, which I like. And the theme and the style and what this game is at the table is just mwah.
Yeah, and we could go into it a little bit more. We won't, but like even just like how you place your like defense or your
strategic.
Characters, it's like very
Shifting around.
very very cool.
Water, flip over, can't use that one anymore. What are you gonna do now?
Yeah. Or maybe you decide to take out a base because you're ready to
the ability is too strong. You gotta get rid of it.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah. So that is Radlands. We did it!
Wow.
Over 50 2-player strictly
games.
And what a better way to end it than to do a giveaway again. So we did a giveaway in part 1 and part 2. Which you can enter by watching part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, you'll have to use the code word there.
We had no code word in the last... Oh, maybe we did. We didn't have a code word.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
I love code words.
I don't even know.
You don't even know. So for part 3 and part 4, we're also going to do a giveaway. You can check out and find the code words that we reference in both the videos. And if you comment down below with the code word, answering if you like any of these games, if what your thoughts are on 2-player games as a whole, you can win a copy of...
You guessed it, Radlands.
Radlands.
Yes. Yep.
Now, you don't get the full fancy deluxe version, but this version's just as great because it has the whole game.
It's beautiful, so it'll come with all the cards that you need to play with it and the resources that you need to play the game.
The water. There's only water.
I always say that. You really only have one resource.
Just one.
It'll come with water.
Well, maybe a glass if you're lucky.
It won't come with actual water, but it will come with water.
So comment down below and you'll be entered for a chance to win this game. Check out the conditions down below of what that looks like. All the intricacies, we'll link it in the description. And you can learn more about that. Well, let us know if you played any of these games, which ones you've enjoyed. If there's any of the games that we haven't covered in our 51-ish, 52, well, I forget the full count. And let us know down below of your 2-player thoughts.
Yes, yeah. We've done a quick review about all of these games, kind of giving you hopefully a decent enough overview of what the actual game is, talking about the mechanics and how we've enjoyed it. But stay tuned because we'll be releasing a top 10 about all of the, from all of the games that we've described in parts 1 through 4.
And maybe even more.
And maybe we'll be, well, wait.
Surprise appearance.
Well, I don't know. But we will also be doing some fun little awards for the games that you've suggested.
They're not little, awards. They're big awards.
Big awards, yeah. We'll do these superlative things that we did last year with the roll and rights we're really excited about. And all thanks to you, we've got a lot of suggestions this year and we're really excited. Some of them I actually have no idea what game I'm going to pick, but I will find one. I will find one that fits the category. Okay. And I'll be very excited when I do.
And thank you so much for watching all of our content, for being along of this journey. It's been a lot of fun for us, and we hope that you found some value and maybe found a game that you really appreciate.
Yeah, we are doing this month because we want to share our love for 2-player games. They seem
flamingos.
They seem to be the games that I think a lot of people are looking for now because of the pandemic, first of all, and then just to be able to have them by their side. So hopefully we've done a good job covering them. We can't cover all of them, of course.
Well, we haven't finished yet, so stay tuned for those 2 videos and have an amazing rest of your day.
Until next time, though, we'll see you later. Bye!